Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
And good night.
and good night. Hey, how are you? Hey, we're back, and we are here today, hoping to wrap up the series, the teaching series. Can you hear me now? With Pastor Albert. He's like, you can do the opening this morning and all the awkward parts, and I'm doing my best to make it as awkward as possible.
It's so hard.
And that's just the way I roll. That's just the way I roll. I'm awkward is just part of my life. And once I've decided to just sit down in the middle of awkwardness, it's really good. It's really good because once you get through that, people are like, "Oh, just as awkward as me. Let's go." So you're going through your series, and you had started a story, and I don't know if that's where you want to begin, but that's where I'm going to throw it out there. And you were talking about something that was done at the level at Netflix, and the story about how they were trying to create an environment that was free to be able to communicate, to talk, to verbalize, to say things out loud that go on in your head, to kind of promote an open community, to be able to have open dialogue. And you hadn't finished that story, so this is your chance to tell that story.
This is my moment.
Yeah,
I got a little pastoral yesterday. Normally, I don't feel like I'm that mushy up front. Maybe I am. Yesterday, I felt a little bit like, man. So, anyways,
you were mushy yesterday?
I felt mushy.
Oh, really?
God is with you. Like one of those messages where I'm like, you need to know this.
It felt like a mushy morning.
It was.
Yeah.
You know what? I just feel like we'll get to Netflix in a sec, but I always struggle to know what is getting older, what is getting different stages of life, and are those the things that's happening in my brain, or is culture actually shifting? Right? Like one of the things that I've talked about, I always say we. It's like we just think the same thoughts. We're always like we talk just me and you.
We talk
just
a
me
lot.
and you. But I feel like the world is spinning faster in the last year or two. Like it feels like I'm endlessly trying to catch up, and I'm endlessly trying to not allow things to not get out of control. But you know what I mean? Like it seems like it's so fast. And I know people tell me that about getting older, that's a part of it. But there's a lot of those kind of things that I'm like, man, I don't know. Like I feel like right now it's a stage where I'm like, I'm scared a little bit. My kids are growing older. I'm worried about their marriages. I'm worried about their relationships. I'm worried about my grandkids. So I think it's a stage combined with the after effects of COVID, combined with kind of where the trade wars and all that jazz is. And you have a lot more uncertainty. The uncertainty's always been there. Mm-hmm. We were always one crazy leader in the world, shy of the whole world changing, right? Like that's always been like that. But it just seems like, and so I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's like, so in my head, at least sometimes I'm like, man, like, and this has been one of those seasons where I'm like, I have to remind myself that God is with me. Because if it's just me, then I want to quit this job. To be completely honest, this job is too stressful. Like when I look at, what we're facing over the next couple of weeks, like we got couples that have fallen apart, and we're going to have to bury somebody. And then we have people asking us to do weddings, and we have people asking us for spiritual advice. And like you have this massive range of things, and it's heavy. And so then you're like, okay, well, if this has to land on just my shoulders, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And so you go, man, there's got to be an easier job out there somewhere, right? But then you go, okay, but if God is with, and if God has led, and if God has called, then I can be confident because God is with. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where I feel like I need to keep telling myself that, and then sometimes I have to tell you guys that too.
And then the reminder, there's been week after week where it just felt like God is just filling the sanctuary space with his presence in ways that are just like, wow. And
because there's mornings where you can go to a church and hear good music and good preaching and not feel God.
Right.
And there's mornings where those things mattered. But really what you sensed was, man, God was really here.
Yeah.
Now, given we don't control where God is, God's like, your pitch was off. We're not coming in. We don't tell God where to be.
Should have played a different chord. I'm gone.
I don't like drums. I'm out. No, sorry. That was too far. I'm sorry.
That was good.
Well, okay. Netflix. So Netflix, I'll give you a really short recap on it. So the whole idea with Netflix was they were trying to create a culture where there was a complete open dialogue in every level. So people were encouraged, and there's some transition here as to how we go, but people were encouraged to criticize their bosses. At meetings, if an idea sucked, you were reprimanded if you didn't say it. The idea was we do not want silence. We do not want to create a culture where, you know, some people say something and then you create, okay, well, these people don't like that. So they kind of go on the side. Like this whole, and so when you hear it, you kind of go, man, that's not what the church wants. That's what everybody wants. I want that marriage like that. But then they had an incident where somebody was explaining something and then somebody used a racial slur.
In their explanation.
Right.
So
not calling somebody it.
They were just
not anything. They were using it as a because something came out, and I don't even remember which hot topic issue it was, but something came out and the guy was like, you know, for people watching this, people may feel the same way as somebody who's of color gets called this.
Right.
Right. And so in a culture like that,
right,
you just assume, we're good.
Right, because it was an explanation of an understanding of somebody's perspective on a feeling that you get from vocabulary that's used.
But even if it weren't,
right,
that wasn't the point. The point was we were supposed to be able to have this open dialogue.
Right.
So what was supposed to happen was people would be like, hey, that's not cool. And then you have a conversation that it ends. So that happened, but everybody kind of went, oh, but that was the line. There was a line. And that line was crossed, but there wasn't an official line. And so then you go, okay, well, from where do we go from here? Now everybody starts going, well, I don't know what's safe.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can say and what I can't say. And so fast forward a couple of years later, and when Dave Chappelle's special came out, so massively popular. I haven't watched it. I've seen clips that come across my reels, but he spoke very insensitively, as comedians do in their jokes, towards one of the hot topic issues. And I don't even remember if it was transgender or if it was something to that effect. I have to
be totally honest. I watched it and it was a very funny.
Well, in comedy, I mean, that's a whole other.
Comedy. It challenges your thinking on things sometimes. And that's why they do it, is they want to poke fun at how you think about things.
Yeah.
And they want you to go, oh, especially when the comics like really good about how they do their delivery, they're going to draw you into a space that's out of your algorithm. Right. So you can actually look at how ridiculous you are for what your perception is about something, because you haven't really thought about it fully. And then once you get challenged on it, you're kind of like, I'm actually the joke. I'm actually the punchline because I fit that. And that's what's funny about it, is that.
Yeah, good comedy makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
Good comedy does a lot of things, and it does it in a unique space. Like, comedy's fascinating that way. Like, it breaks down barriers. Anyways, so they release this, and I remember hearing about this, though, and Netflix is going to separate, Netflix is going to split. There's massive anger. But on the inside, that wasn't true. And so what they had learned and what they had created was environments that were highly structured where everybody was able to voice their opinion. And so they had created these spaces, and they go, okay, so we're going to invite everybody into this space. Here's the rules. And under those rules, we're going to have this conversation. Then at the end of this conversation, everybody has the ability to be heard. But at the end of it, that's it. So in regard to Chappelle's special, it was offensive to some people. There were some people that really hated it. And there were some Netflix guys that quit. That did happen. But the large majority were like, no, we get it. We were heard. We may not like it, but we were heard and we were understood. But based on the vision of the place that we work, we understand that. And so it was really, really fascinating. And so then I've been trying to think of, as we go forward, like, we've done this with one issue. We did this with the gender issue like 2 years ago. But overall, we don't really have those kind of spaces.
We've tried within our office space to head towards that direction.
But even that, it's hard.
To be able to say things that are difficult, to be able to say, we've done it more in line of our thinking about topics rather than necessarily critiques about decisions even though that's been present, I think that's been a growing thing. But we oftentimes say that when we enter into our office space that it's it's NATO, it's the United Nations, it's Switzerland. You can say whatever you want to say. You can voice what you need to say, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that's your complete opinion. It's what you've thought about something, and you're looking for pushback or challenge or something to be added. I'm missing something from my algorithm. Here's what I'm thinking about this. What am I not seeing?
Well, and I think so the problem even in our office is you have the right to share that, but the others have the right to feel offended. And that becomes the contentious issue then.
Right.
So then now, and this is where I think there's a lot of things here. And again, I'm not a social scientist. I find people fascinating and conversation fascinating and all that. But you have to, appreciate being offended to create a culture like this.
Yeah, you have to be okay with being...
Not only okay, but you have to want it, because if you're not offended, you have not been challenged.
Right.
So by definition, people have looked at offense and been like, that's bad. I was offended. Okay, but let's look at what you actually were. So we'll look at something that's relevant to us. Parenting.
Right. Yeah.
I will tell everybody I want to be a good parent, but I'm telling you right now, I will be offended if you tell me my decision on parenting is wrong. Okay, so let's define that a little bit. Okay, so I'm offended. I don't know what Trev, can you look up the definition of offense? Offended. I'm actually curious. But if you look at it, we've just used this broad term. Really, I think what I feel most of the time is I feel triggered by the reality that inside I feel as a failure as a parent.
Mm.
Okay, so we just use this broad term. I'm offended. What does that mean? Offended for what? Offended for who?
Yeah, it's a bad explanation of what we're really...
Right.
It's a wall explanation.
Yeah.
I'm offended.
Yep.
So you have to stop.
But then you look, okay, so when we're coaching, I'm going to try to offend the kids in the sense of I'm going to try to put them in a place where they go, what do you mean my swing is wrong? What do you mean my throwing arm is wrong? What do you mean? And they should feel a little bit like, what are you talking about? Well, no, what you're doing is wrong.
So the definition of offense is as causing displeasure or anger, an act that is insulting, rude, or makes someone feel upset.
As causing displeasure and anger.
As leaving one feeling upset.
Good. You should. So in a harsh conversation where anything of value is being challenged, not only should you be offended when you leave, you should want to be. That means you've had a stimulating conversation. When me, you, and Will get together and we have conversations and I leave feeling just happy, I may have enjoyed my conversation,
but it didn't.
100% I didn't grow. How could I possibly grow? Because all we did then was we agreed on everything. The really good conversations are where they hurt a little bit. And you don't want these all the time. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not like every staff meeting we want to be like, let's see if we can offend somebody, right? But at some point, no, look, you need to start doing this. You need to start this.
And my brain goes right away to, I can only imagine what it was like walking into a Tuesday or Wednesday morning film session with Bill Belichick. Where
Right.
he's going to
Right.
literally go through every play of each player
Right.
and be like, what were you doing here, dummy?
Right.
You know that you're supposed to pull here and have your hand this way and that you're supposed to be coming up and turning like this. Why didn't you do it?
Right.
But you have to be okay with those types of critiques happening so that you can get to the level where you're like holding that trophy above your head.
Right.
Or in the Christian context, a crown.
Right.
That he says that he's gonna offer to you. Now I know we offer it back, but he's still offering to you a crown.
Right.
And that means you were willing to be, challenged. You were willing to be offended. You were willing to be put in that place where...
Because then, so my brain kind of goes to there and goes, okay, so we don't want to be offended. So we say often, and I hear this from people all the time, and I'm this person. I have said this before. I hate conflict. Okay. That's not true.
It's a broad statement again, right?
I love conflict. I love lots of conflict. I love when somebody stands up for somebody. I love movies where the good guy battles and they win. I love when I parent well and I feel like, no, I did this well. My child needed a correction. I nailed it as a parent. I love conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves conflict. What don't we love?
When it comes to us.
100%. And I think there's a couple of things. I don't want to make this oversimplistic, but it just because this is, again, if you've never watched these before, these are not scripted. We don't really know what we're going to talk about. We have an overarching thing. And then you just get the real version. Like, this is not a Sunday morning where I've thought about this all week. This is so we're thinking as we go. But okay, so you think, so when I get offended, for me at least, it creates a lot of uncomfortableness.
Okay, so in that moment
Yep.
where you're being offended, so you, or like that criticism or that critiquing or that person is challenging you.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the relationship you have with that person in regards to, in many ways, how much you're willing to receive what's being said.
No.
You don't think so?
Give me. I'll
like
explain
what
I mean.
I'm trying to say is that if you could trust the individual because you've built that trust with them,
but only if you've had these kind of conversations.
Well, that's
So
what I mean. Like the only
we've
way to have that trust is to actually have those conversations over time. Like you have to have somebody that is in a position where they're like, no, we've been journeying together and you've seen that I'm committed to you. And that commitment that overarching commitment should put us in a place where we're willing to have this dialogue on a certain level.
Well, and so the reason I'm pushing back is I agree 100%. But what me and you have both seen is that most relationships in the church are not founded this way.
Right. I would agree with
you know
that.
What I mean? So we don't have that. Even in our marriages, we don't fight well. We don't fight intentionally. In our friendships, we don't call each other out. And I know this because there's things that you've done that I have not liked, and I would not say anything because I'm like, it's just not worth it. What does that mean? It's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the office here, like we talk about, like we've created this culture now, but we're still pretty hesitant with it. And we're still pretty like, when you get into a room, like there's things that happened on Sunday that should not have happened. Mm-hmm. There's things that we missed that should not have been missed. There's things that weren't done. And so you go, I think and the reason I'm pushing back is I think people make this sound easier than it is. I think you have to be unbelievably intentional. When a lot of people talk about the people that are friends in your life, what you're talking about is the people that you have the most in common with, that you get to go escape from life to. So we go hang out, we play hockey together, we shoot the breeze.
So not a friend that's actually closer than a brother, like not that type of friendship, the type of but an actual friend who's like trying to journey with you to push you to be the best version of yourself that God intended you to be, which means these conversations are on the regular.
Right.
They're not like, hey, one-offs. Every 5 years, I think I need to say something.
Right. Because we have friends like that. I have friends like that sound so open, but I could never say anything to. And then when I look at my own past, like, I would love to be able to think that I was a person people could approach, but I'm terribly insecure. I still struggle with it. This is a really tough job. If you come up to me and I've spent, on a series like this 5-part series, it's hard for me to calculate the hours because you're also dealing all the years of thinking, but I've probably spent 100 hours on this thing. So you walk up to me and you criticize. It's hard. And I think people, when we have these conversations, I think we get too like...
So what's our posture problem? What
our posture problem?
Like, what I'm saying is our lack of willingness to be able to receive. Because I definitely think when I look at my children, I think they've received some of that from me. Mm-hmm. So like, as a parent, I'm just dying on the inside when I see them unwilling to receive almost anything in terms of like connection,
right?
In different ways. And as kids, I'm not looking for my kids to be perfect, even though I am.
We are pastors. We need you to be better. People are watching us.
To me, that one's secondary. I
know. I'm sorry.
No, jokes. I want them to. Yeah, I really want them. I don't know if it's a parent thing, a dad thing. I don't know. I want them to be able to handle life because life will handle you.
Right. Yep.
And they need to be able to handle the hard.
Right.
Like they can't be soft. You can't be soft. Not in the sense where, we need to have like that kind of mentality needs to be turfed as fast as possible. I think we need to have the ability to, we can get all sorts of different ways to be able to understand, realize, and sit down in our emotions and have them be a part of us. But we also live in a culture where, like we were talking about, we need to be strong. We need to be that. And like as men, we need to be able to, go into those harsh environments and deal with it. Right. And having some of that dialogue, like we've almost removed some of the things that are essentials when it comes to what you were made to be. Mm-hmm. And without it being a bad version of that.
Right.
I think we have pendulum swung way too far to, like, I look at the life of David. You want to talk about a man that was soft. I mean, that guy could get into his emotions. He could get into his feelings. He could get into that. But he was also the guy that they would, they relied on to kill the giant. He was also the guy that would lead him. He was psycho in terms of like, he would go to war, man, and there was no holds barred. A unique individual for sure, but like, you can't, in order for him to be those things, he had to be both of them.
Right.
And that's part of the dialogue too. Like how can we,
Okay, let's go back to posture here for a bit, because I think
a posture to receive that says, my intention is to be everything that I am supposed to be.
But I don't think we want that.
No, and I agree.
And I think part of the problem is
I want to be seen as that.
Yes, I want to be seen as that. I want to feel like that, but I don't want to put in the work. And I just think and I don't think this is a criticism of any specific individual. I think all of us battle for this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like I remember Erwin way back in the day, he would constantly talk about, people talk about wanting to live a full life, but they don't want to do the work of it. And back then I didn't understand. Now, as I get older, I'm like, no, I get it.
Well, it's what Dave Reimer was saying. You got to have 6 yeses before you can have a no. In that sense.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put the work in before, I know it's a different context of what we got, but putting the work in.
Yeah. No, I think that if we can get to a place where we start just being honest and going, I'm not actually looking to be the best pastor. So stop lying to yourself. What I'm trying to be is I'm trying to be good enough that at the end of Sundays, people come up to me, give me an attaboy, and then we go on with life. And then we'll repeat that cycle. If we say that, then at least we don't have this fakeness of it. But we don't. We say we want to be the best pastor in the world. Well, do you study like the best pastor? Are you really willing to take criticism? Because I can tell you, it's so interesting when you watch the Blue Jays now this year. There's a couple things that I didn't want to get too much into Blue Jays on Sunday because I felt like it missed. But there was a couple of things about them that I think their posture was interesting. They were willing to go wherever their coach let them or wanted them to go. Mm-hmm. That is an interesting dynamic. Now, I know most people go, sports, you go where... No. When you're dealing with high talent, high pay, high ego individuals, you don't necessarily tell them where to go. They tell you where they're going to go, and then you try to coach them. When you watch this year and you watched a whole team go, no, we're going to do whatever we can to win, that's a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. So then when you bring that into the church model and you go, are you willing to play whatever part? Are you actually willing to play whatever part so that the kingdom can win? And that's a very different question. Mm-hmm. So it just becomes a lot of this, this is where sometimes I get into almost overwhelmed because there's just so much to it. And you go, man, there's so many parts. But these tough conversations don't happen because we don't actually want them to happen. Because if they happen, there is a potential that instead of me winning, I'm going to lose. And I would rather keep to myself in my wrong opinions than go through the work of being offended and learning the right ones. And that sounds horrible when you say it out loud.
So you would rather...
I'm guilty of that.
You would rather stay in your wrong opinions thinking that you're winning.
100%.
Than actually be challenged.
Think about trying to,
yeah.
Trevor, you're parenting wrong. Nobody wants to hear that. You would rather nobody criticize you. And then we use this kind of stuff. Well, they don't have a relationship with me. Yeah, I get that. But I also get but what if they're just the gift of discernment that we see in 1 Corinthians 12? It's not like Paul says, if you have the gift of discernment, thou shalt discern, and then become a long-term friend with them, and then build 10 years of relationship, and then tell them the way you're parenting your infant is wrong. Because then he's a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of excuses that come out in all of this.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right? If you are in the body of Christ, mm-hmm. and you see something and out of love, you feel compelled to say it, you should say it. When you become a member, you commit to offending people and being offended. Reread what you committed to. I will allow people to speak into my life, and I will speak into people's lives. We don't actively do that. And then people feel disconnected and we struggle. And so, part of my problem with small groups and some of those is it just becomes this fake version of friendship. Same thing again, you go to small groups and you've been there for 15 years and you've never left offended. You've never left that challenged, that you felt hurt because what you believed for 10 years was wrong. You've never done that. You're that right in your theology. Because I'm not.
No,
right? Like, but most of our correction, because we're public figures, and maybe what we should do is we should do a podcast on, I realized I was wrong. Like,
well, I could start with my parenting on Saturday.
well, but
do you want to go there? Because wow.
No, I just mean like, so we do a lot of podcasts. We do a lot of study. We do a lot of books. We do a lot of listening to other pastors. And you go, oh, that's a different way of seeing it. Oh, that's a different way. And so when you walk up front, you're not often saying, here's where I was a heretic and here's where I am now. Like, you just don't present it that way.
Right. So then people don't see the process that you went through to get there.
100%.
They just think it magically happened.
Yeah. And so I think, again, going back to the whole Netflix culture, I do think we should be modeling that. But just saying we should doesn't mean we're going to. And so then it becomes a question of, if we can't do it in our families, we won't be able to do it in our church. And so then before we get into how do we as a church set this up, we go, okay, how do I do this better with Jose? How do I do this better with my kids? And so I did have a situation with one of my kids in the last couple of days where we were chatting about this, and it's going to be a tough conversation, but I was like, okay, let's set up some boundaries. Let's just not go and show up and lose our emotions, because we know that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If I just show up and we do the same conversation we've had 20 times, I'm going to yell, you're going to yell, we're both going to leave angry. That doesn't accomplish anything. We can say we had a conversation, but you didn't. Set up some rules, set up some guidelines, set up some time, set up some posture, because we actually want to reconcile. If you actually want to reconcile, we're going to have to strategically work, because everything about us, the way we're wired, is to push anything that's bad away or to hit them, right? Fight and flight.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just a natural response.
Yeah.
So to go against that and to say, no, but they sit on my pew, they sit in my seat, they sit in my church. I don't have the right to do fight or flight. I have to stay here in a posture and go, okay, how do I work towards reconciliation? So I can say from my end, at least, I have done everything. But I think that's why you say, I think your posture, I think there is a lot there. I think.
Do you think this is off, maybe not off topic. My brain, I always like shoot off in all sorts of directions, connecting dots. But, what was one of the foundational reasons for saying, freedom of speech? The right to be able to say whatever you want is going to be a basis of our society. Why? Like, isn't that the weirdest thing that you're going to number one, we are going to give people the right to say what they want. Right. Like, where did that come from? And I'm sure somebody's out there going, you haven't read history at all of where that come from and the reasons why they put that in there because of the history with England and the king, whatever it was.
Sure.
But as a foundational point of the basis of North American culture, we're going to say the right to talk and whatever you want to talk about. That I don't know how much more, but when we think about that, when I think about that, I go, oh, so they saw communication and the ability to say things that people were thought were challenging, or to be able to voice an opinion on something that would go against the authority structure or whatever it was worth writing into the founding principles of a society, of a culture, of a country, of we're going to make this the basic rule. Right. There's a layer of importance there that somebody saw. And I mean, it's been the backstop of, that country, and really, in many ways, a world that struggles with the ability to say, unless you're online and you're posting with a pseudonym or something. But
no, I think there's is a really interesting
it's a high level
part of this conversation to it, because my first thought when you said, why did they do it? My first thought is because humans are aware of our intense posture to shut people out and somehow going, okay, if we're ever going to be successful,
we can't do that,
because then the right's going to shut the left up and the left's going to shut the right up. And I mean, this is what we're trying to do now.
And I'm going to go home and shut, my kids up or my wife, and I'm going to give them a place where they can actually dialogue with me.
Well, I can tell you, so it's funny. So I love comedy. And I get what we were talking about before, the concepts of it and all that. but you say something about the church and my defenses immediately go up. And I always have to laugh. I'm like, it's so interesting. I can hear them make fun of like everybody. And then they make fun of the church and I'm like, how dare you? What is... So I think it's a great thing to write. I think it's a naive thing to think that you're going to be able to do. Because it may be one of the founding principles, but it has never been a reality. There's always lines. I mean, it's the same thing. I'm going to say this whole sexual freedom movement. Everybody's like, sexual freedom. No, nobody thinks that. Everybody has lines.
Mm-hmm.
All you're saying is you want to have different lines than the current lines.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about freedom of speech, we're not talking about full freedom. And so I think it's that line. And I mean, we've struggled with this as a culture. I mean, you see with Facebook banning the news and some of that, and they're trying to find ways, or the Canadian government, whoever did it, whatever, but they're trying to find ways that people can't manipulate others. And so then you just block it all as if that's the way to, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's an easy thing. And I think part of the problem with Netflix, part of the problem with us, part of the problem with the way we do this is that we assume that we aren't going to be offended. And I think you have to have a different posture of, I will be offended, but when I'm offended, I'm wanting to respond like this. Because there's no other way. Like if I'm terrified, I don't know, did we mention I don't know if we mentioned this the other day, but I made a joke to another pastor about something I was going to say on Sunday. And I said it last Sunday. I actually said what I was going to say last Sunday. And the guy's like, if I ever said that in my church, like half my people would leave.
Yeah, you get canceled.
And I'm like, that's crazy. And so I think there is a certain level where you have to be wise with your freedom of speech and you have to know your congregation. You have to know those things. But I think you're naive if you think you can actually live freedom of speech and not be offended.
Right. Oh, yeah. I think, yeah.
So then at that point, then we go, okay, well, the question really isn't about freedom of speech. And the question really isn't about creating open dialogue. The question is about creating people of character of how they're going to respond when they A, have the opportunity to speak into somebody's life, and B, receive it. Because if you give the wrong person that power, they'll just diminish everybody and destroy everybody. But then you get somebody else and you say one little criticism and there's tears and there's offense and there's this is unfair. Like, so I think it's both.
I think of a reel I saw the other day and it was football players, college football players leaving a stadium. They're walking up, like, if you've ever been to like the Sky Dome and the concrete, concourses that go from one level to another, and they're like walking along. And there's the players kind of concourse, and right beside them is like where fans and people can walk. And they're obviously in the opposing stadium. And they're walking up the concourse, and all of a sudden there's a guy, one of the team managers or whatever, is pushing a heavy load of equipment up the other side, on the other side of the concrete barrier. So this guy, this big 6'6", 300+ lineman, is just getting chirped by all the fans that are on the other side of the concourse. Like, he's like, they're expressing freedom of speech. Like, I mean, they're, whatever it is. And like, he's just walking along and taking it. And then he notices this guy struggling to push this thing. And like, in the midst of them chirping him and like just giving it to him, giving the gears, he hops over the concrete course and just starts pushing the thing along so the guy wasn't struggling so much. Just in the midst of the criticism and the attacks and the offense, instead of being offended, he had character that was like, oh, that person needs help.
Right.
I don't even know if it was a guy from his team. It was just somebody who needed help. So he hopped over and just helped the guy push the thing up because the guy was struggling like crazy, because I'm sure it weighed a few hundred pounds and it was a pretty steep incline. Yeah. He just jumped over, helped him push it up, and went about his way. Yeah.
And that's what you want to create. You want to create people like that. That's
dude's got some character, man.
Right. Like, because that situation is interesting, because you go, a lot of the criticism we face, we can't actually just stop. Like, just saying something is going to end it.
Right.
But who are you going to be in the midst of it? How are you going to let it shape you? Right. All that stuff. The other thing I was thinking as you were saying that was, so going back to what you were saying before about friendships and stuff, the reason we need to start with family is that because when family does their job, strangers don't have to. So we always give this illustration in the church. Well, I'm not going to let just anybody walk up to me and say something. Yeah, that's true. But if the people around you have the authority to say it, then strangers won't have to. Right. So if Trevor's failing as a dad, and Michael hasn't said anything, and Dave and Mary haven't said anything, and Tyler and Crystal haven't said anything, and the people closest, like Kevin and Grace and all those that hang out with Trev, if none of them say anything, it is going to land on somebody else. And when it does, then they're going to be like, well, I don't know if you have the authority to speak into this. Well, that's true, because the people who had the authority to speak into it chose not to. We had this years ago on the fire hall, and there was somebody who, long story short, I don't know. You know what? Actually, I don't want to share the story. He's passed away now already, so we'll leave this story alone for now.
Well, I oftentimes wonder my brain was thinking about as I examine our family, and I think about, okay, is there freedom to dialogue? Because you think, oh man, things are good, but is there that opportunity to be offended and have that, to have that moment where people are speaking into your life and it be received or not be received? Or is it the opposite, where everything is just like, hey, let's get together and love each other?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to ask yourself, okay, all right, why are we okay with it?
Right.
And is it really just, I don't want to deal with somebody thinking something about me that I'm not?
Right.
I want to be everything already, but unless I'm willing to,
Yeah, I think, again, and if you're following this, it's a little bit all over, but I think part of the problem too is, so go back to criticizing me at work, or, we can use parenting the same way. So there's a couple different layers to it. If you're not doing your job to begin with, it's going to be a whole different level. So if you're lazy at work and one of your problems is that you really haven't done your job, this response is going to be very different.
Right.
And so part of the problem with Christians is, if you're not really actively pursuing Christ and you're just in church, this is really different. The criticism is far deeper, and you're going to feel more deeply offended.
Mm-hmm.
But that's on you. It's not on me. That's on you. If you're pursuing Jesus, or if I'm pursuing my work and I'm giving it everything, and you come up and you say, this part of your job you're doing inaccurate or you're doing wrong, I don't feel like it's a character attack, because I'm working well. Right. I'm working hard. Right. And it's the same thing with as a dad. I don't like those conversations, but I also have no problem with them. If you think I'm parenting something wrong, I'm totally good with it. I really am. In the moment, I may not be. Mm-hmm. But we've had this because our boys, we coach together a lot. We've had times where I'm like, no, I'll go deal with your child. And you're like, no, I'll go deal with your child. We've had these moments, and I've given Tim the permission and Bernie the permission and my brother Pete, they have that. And so I do think there are layers to it as well. I don't think it's quite as simple as just, are you willing to receive or not? If you're a lazy worker, every criticism hits different.
Oh yeah, it will for sure.
Right? If you haven't been in the Word and you haven't followed Jesus, and somebody comes up and challenges you, it hits different, and you know why it hits different. And so there's all those layers to it too. But at the end of the day, to me, it goes back to, and I think we want to wrap this up because we've covered lots of ground in a short period of time. It goes back to, again, when I think of Paul talking about this moment. Actually, I think it's in Hebrews. Anyways, it's somewhere. And I may even be mixing metaphors, but Paul says the idea of finishing the race, right? That's Paul?
Yeah.
It's Monday morning. Forgive me. So he talks about this idea of finishing the race, of finishing strong, and this idea of the cloud of witnesses around supporting and encouraging. And if we are in that space where you are running and somebody comes alongside and says, hey, if you would take the time to tie your shoe, you could run faster. I may be a little annoyed that you have the nerve to say something, but because I want to finish the race strong, I'm okay with it. If I'm walking and I've already given up on finishing the race and I really don't care, I'm just going to try to get to the end and hope I make it to heaven, then I'll be irritated. Then I'll be frustrated. And so I think if we can get into that posture of going, no, I want to finish my race well. Whatever our role here at church is, whatever we're supposed to accomplish, I just want to accomplish it well. And if that ends up with a church that's massive and we have huge influence, great. If we never grow again and this is all we're supposed to do, great. If God's like, no, you only have 4 more years and I'm going to shut this church down, I'm going to do something different, great. I just want to finish my race.
Right.
And that is not an easy thing to do. But there's a really wise man who said every morning when you wake up, remember you're supposed to pick up your cross. You're not picking up your, just your backpack or just your lunchbox. You're picking up a cross.
Right.
And today, again, I die to self because at the end of the day, I just want to know I have accomplished everything that my God has asked me to do.
Yeah. It's his kingdom.
Right.
We get to live in it.
100%.
Thanks for joining us today.
You did a great job. Intro, outro, you're nailing it.
See you Sunday.
All right, see you later.